Sync word refrigerator in 3, 2, 1.
Refrigerator.
Oh, I think I said
Okay.
mine a little earlier than you guys, or maybe it was just lag on my part. I don't know.
Oh, we'll do it once more anyway. 3,
Okay.
2, 1. Refrigerator.
Refrigerator.
That's good enough. I'll make it work.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It'll be close enough. It'll be close enough.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to part 2 of our Prehistoric Planet 2 podcast breakdown thingamajigger. I am joined by my friends Gibson and Eric again. Say hello, fellas. Thank you for being here.
Hi. Use coupon code that probably doesn't work anymore.
Hey,
That's
but you
actually
never
a
know.
really good question.
You never know.
I
We'll have to
don't
test
think
it
it
out.
works, but you could try.
Oh, wow.
But,
we don't even know
dear
where
viewer,
we're
there's
saving
only
them on
one
this.
way to find out if it works, and that's to try it.
That's very true.
And for those who aren't familiar with that coupon code, we're not. Let's not say what website it goes to. So even if they
No.
wanted to try it, they'll have to use process of elimination.
I'm really honestly surprised that you've gone to the length to explain it in this detail, David. I thought we were going to leave it at that.
That's true. Okay, back to the actual subject matter. Welcome back to our Prehistoric Planet 2 breakdown. In part 1, we broke down the first 2 episodes when we originally planned on doing the whole thing in like an hour, but because we love
were
this show so
fools.
much, we knew that was impossible.
Yeah, it didn't work out very well.
But today, we're going to be doing the next 2 episodes, and then the final part, we're going to be doing the final episode and just general thoughts and our thoughts comparing it to season 1, etc. And we're starting with, spoiler alert, my favorite episode of season 2.
That's how you ended
Swamps.
the last episode, David.
Well, it's continuity.
Do I sound like I care? Got him.
Fair enough.
SpinoDude and Dino Man conflict. Dino
Oh,
Tube
yeah, man.
war gone hostile, colorized.
We need to get more views somehow. That ad revenue rolling in. Do you guys want to start a feud? Like we'll just.
Yeah, we'll start I'm good with a feud.
Yeah, sure. David, you're cringe.
that
Anyways,
actually,
Hold on,
swamp
guys.
please.
I have to work on my diss track. I can't record right now.
Okay. Actually getting on track now.
You can see
Swamps.
why we didn't get through more than 2 episodes last time.
Exactly. All right, so swamps. We start off with I think is a very well. First of all, it was a scene that wasn't spoiled in any trailers for me or anything. We have a reuse of the juvenile as darkened model from actually season 3 of season 1 of episode 3 as well.
yeah.
English.
I love
And,
season 3,
fresh
episode
water.
1, Water Fresh.
I'm having a brain. At the time of the brain is now for me today.
I can tell.
We got some baby as dark kids learning how to fly, and they have to fly across some croc-infested waters.
David,
You guys
come
take
on,
over
man.
for me.
Yeah,
Hold
okay,
on.
so-
no, you
so-
guys
all right.
take over, please.
So-
All right.
So,
Okay,
we have some-
Eric, do you want to
Okay,
take over or do you want me to take over?
Sure, I'll go. So
Okay.
we have these little baby as darkened boys, right? They like just hatched, right? So they're like, look at me. And then they're like, well, we gotta get off the island, right? Like Gilligan's Island or any generic island story. They gotta get off the island, right? So but what they have that the other island stories don't is wings. So these ones decide to fly across the water to not island, but as David just said, there's crocs and everything, and then they crocs are trying to grab the babies and all that jazz, and yeah, that's the scene. Like one of them makes it.
We get some Shamasuchus, I think, which I've been
Yes.
informed by various people may not actually be Shamasuchus, but rather Paralligator, like misnamed for potential taxonomic weird, like
Reasons.
incongruity reasons.
Now,
but yeah, I'm not
Can I
sure about
say-
that. I don't know what the details are.
I will say, for me in this episode is also my favorite, but is my favorite for the later segments. This
For sure.
first segment is not very good, in my opinion. and I think it might be one of the weaker ones in the show, largely because I think the CGI alligators or crocodilians look really, really bad. I don't think they look good at all. This is some PS2 level
strange.
stuff.
Like,
they don't.
I kind of have mixed feelings on, because I think the CG as CG still looks decent. It just doesn't look prehistoric planet-esque. Like,
I think it's also
they look like
because
decent CGI monsters. They look like bad CGI animals.
Yeah, well, I mean, they don't
make sense.
I mean, they just don't really even move like crocodilians, right? Like when he's on land. Well,
They
except for in the
look
water. When they're in
warm-blooded.
the water, they move very good. But when they're on land, they move way too CGI monstery, right? Like crocodilians, like don't move that constantly.
They
and,
don't
like,
move
it's
like
running with its-
ectotherms.
Yeah. I didn't like them.
think-
I
And
don't
it's
know.
weird 'cause
I
they
don't know what
also,
happened
like-
with this scene, but
They look
Yeah.
better in
I
the
think
water,
part
and the
of it
scene
for
also
me-
utilizes real shots of like crocodilians in a couple shots, which look really good. So the effects are kind of like all over the place, which I think doesn't
That
help.
is
Is
true.
that visually they're very inconsistent. It almost would have been better if they just committed to one style or the other.
And
Yeah.
It's a bit.
I think this is one of those cases too where Shamasukas already looks so similar to modern day crocodilians. That's why they were using actual footage of them for close-up shots. And
Yeah.
it is harder to replicate something that is already familiar to, human
very true.
senses.
I mean, and
in
that's
CGI.
definitely
So-
accurate to some degree. Because I mean, as these guys know, I really love birds. I'm a big bird nerd, big bird guy, and
Yes,
I
yes.
will say I do think that the not as bad as these crocodilians, but I do think the birds in Prehistoric Planet are pretty consistently not that good for me, and I think it might just largely be because I'm so familiar with them, right? And I have a really good reference.
You know
as to what they should
exactly
look
how
like
they're
and how they should
supposed to
move.
be.
Yeah,
Like the Stygimata
So-
from episode 5 also stuck out to me, which we'll talk
Yeah.
about when we get there, of course.
Yeah, those
but-
were a
Yeah.
little bit
You know.
wonk.
Yeah. But yeah, these I think I'd say that these I forget their genus name, but I don't really care that much. I don't care about them.
One thing I
think
will
they're-
say-
when they move, when they snap at the pterosaurs in the water, I do think that looks very good. That looks very crocodilian. But other than that, they're easily my least favorite, least realistic looking of their prehistoric animals in the show, I'd say.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah. One thing I will say that not just documentaries, but just media in general always seems to fail to take the opportunity on is there were so many croc jaw pop noises in this scene, which I
did
greatly
like
appreciated.
that. I did
because
enjoy that.
It's such a cool sound that they actually make, and I feel like we always just get generic monster bite noises in any
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
thing for them.
Yeah, no.
So
Your
I
average
did like
asylum
that quite a
movie
bit.
doesn't care. Yeah, and
No,
that's,
it
I
doesn't.
will say that I still actually really enjoy this opening scene. I think it's definitely the least exciting scene of the episode, partially too because admittedly just the animal lineup isn't the most interesting. It's a fairly generic looking pterosaur and a very generic crocodilian. But I do think it's
Yeah.
still a well executed scene. I liked the pacing and the tension of it a lot, and the sound design of like the jaw pops stuff was good. It really is down to just the inconsistency of the effects for the Shamasukas.
But hey, at least it's in a swamp.
Very
That's
true,
Which
because that is a
cannot be
problem
spoken
later.
of all, that cannot
We'll
be
get to
spoken
that
of
in
all
a
the
bit.
segments of this episode.
For real.
But yeah,
But
so
anyway,
then does it
pretty
go straight
solid
to the
open-
frog after that?
Nope, we have
No, it doesn't
Austroraptor
go to the
next.
frog.
I've got
Oh, I forgot about my
yeah.
boy.
Yep. Now this is one I actually want to. I want to take the reins on quickly and just see how you guys feel about this.
Are you
because
sure?
one thing-
Are you sure you can be trusted, David? We saw how this went before.
Oh, I'm fine now. The stupid
Okay.
has left.
Alright.
It,
Okay.
It,
Alright.
it locked
Okay.
the door
Okay,
and threw
sure.
away the key.
If you're so sure, if you're so sure.
Anyways, I always really liked the Austroraptor scene, and I know there was the one shot of it in the trailer that looked a little funky, and I know most people, even now that I see, are complaining about the way the CGI looks on them in the show. They think they look kind of goofy. At least in my opinion, I think they look goofy in the way that some birds today are like bug-eyed and kind of plasticky looking, and I think they sit in their environment well and they work, but I'm curious if you guys felt similarly or if you seem to agree with people that their CGI art is generally like weak compared to the other creatures. Because to me it seems more of like a design choice.
Okay, so here's my take as the most hardcore Austroraptor fan maybe ever, because no one cares about this animal. This is one of my favorite dinosaurs, period. This is like an easy top 10er for me. I really like this scene. It's not my favorite scene in the episode. I think what I would largely say is that I see what people are talking about, but it seems exaggerated. Because the way some people talk about the effects in this scene would lead me to believe that they are, like, markedly worse than usual, when in reality, I think they're pretty on point for the normal special effects in this show. I think I see them looking a little more plasticky, a little smoother in some... just texturally in some shots and lighting, but I don't think they're nearly as bad as some people are making them out to be. And if anyone, I haven't heard anyone complaining about like the design or anything looking goofy, but if anyone is complaining about that, you need to look at this animal's skull again and its skeleton, because that's what it looked like. I got news for you about the eyeballs and the snout and the eyebrow ridges of this thing. This was a dorky looking raptor, and that's one of the best things about it. In terms of design and accuracy, I think they literally could not have nailed Austroraptor more for me. In terms of effects, I don't think they're the greatest looking effects in the series, but I don't think they're
no Chiantosaurus for me.
No, but I don't think they're like way worse than usual. And some shots look really good. As usual with this show, it looked better the closer the cameras were.
I agree with
yes.
There were some good close-ups of the feet that I really liked.
Yes.
Yep.
But yeah.
I did like
that's
how
my
the first
take.
reveal for it, which I didn't even notice until my second watch through of the episode, but its foot underwater, because you think you're focusing on the fish swimming by, but its foot almost looks like a piece of debris.
Its leg is in the foreground.
I thought that was really cool. The environment in this episode is absolutely gorgeous as well, or in this scene rather, is absolutely gorgeous as well.
I like the vegetation and the look of it a lot.
Yeah, was it in like Tasmania or New Zealand or something? Like it gave me that vibe.
I could easily see that being the case. The very like sparse kind of cycad-y stuff.
Yeah.
I like what they were going for with kind of evoking the feeling of like a grizzly bear salmon rush, without going too hard into that. I like the concept for the scene.
I thought it was cool. Again, it certainly wasn't my favorite of the episode. Like I just thought it was a solid segment.
But it was just really happy as an Austroraptor. As an Austroraptor fan, I feel well fed, but not my favorite scene of the episode.
Yeah. I mean, Austroraptor is a cool animal. I'm very happy that we got it in, because I mean they're a very weird dromaeosaur, and one thing I was learning about them is how, like, Austroraptor and other Unenlagines, which is the group that Austroraptor is in, of these long-snouted, seemingly fish-eating dromaeosaurs, are like one of the earliest branches on the dromaeosaur family tree, but like our earliest fossils of them are like from the mid-Cretaceous, despite the fact that since they're so early branching, these guys had to have been around since at least the late Jurassic, maybe even earlier.
Oh, wow. So I didn't realize that. That's cool.
There's a huge lineage of these guys that, like, we don't know where their fossils are, even though we know they had to exist.
That's really exciting, honestly.
So
I always forget
go out and try to find them.
Oh, I will.
I always forget that Austroraptor is a Unenlagi, and just because of how big it was. And then when people remind me, I'm just like, oh yeah, that makes total sense now.
It is the only one with gigantism to that degree that we know of. I mean, it's one of really only 4 dromaeosaurs total that come close to that size range. I'm happy. Like, not only am I a huge fan of the genus, but it also just felt like a major check mark for Maastrichtian animal diversity for the show to include, because it is just like so prominently weird.
Now that I'm thinking about it, is this Austroraptor's first ever like media appearance, like in a documentary or show
Oh,
or what. I don't
probably.
think I've ever seen it
I
in
wouldn't
anything
be
else.
surprised in the slightest. Yeah.
So good job, Prehistoric Planet, because Austroraptor's a weird guy. I'm
aren't
happy.
even
I'm
any
happy that he
figures
got
of it.
included in something.
Well, I mean, Austroraptor was
Oh,
in the
you're
aisle,
right.
but I don't know if you'd count the aisle. But
Yeah.
Yeah. Outside of
I certainly
games,
wouldn't count the aisle. I
Well,
don't like the
no.
aisle. Fight me.
It's okay. Path of Titans exists now, and no one will fight you on the aisle. They've seen something, marginally better.
Yeah.
Wow, I love my games to be in 8 years of development. Anyways,
I like the tension from a game that's never finished.
all right. Well, Austroraptor was great. I remember too. I have to bring attention to this because one of my favorite moments of watching the show with you guys is watching the intro for the first time, because I had Austroraptor spoiled for me via a screenshot that was leaked on Instagram and was going around, and
I
was
just watched
like,
the
"Oh."
trailer, so I saw it that way.
well, I didn't know that was Austroraptor in the trailer actually, because it was like the front shot.
It
of
is
its
the front
face,
shot.
so
I
you
didn't
couldn't
know- I
see
didn't
the
know it
long
was-
snout.
I didn't know it was Austroraptor either. Yeah, you're right. Somehow I knew Austroraptor. It was an Austroraptor.
I think it was.
I forget
was
where I
it
learned that
Skeleton Crew. Skeleton
Maybe.
Crew might have broken it down.
from. It might have been them.
Yeah, but anyways, but I saw that and I knew how big of an Austroraptor fan Gibson was, and I was like, I need to like protect him at all costs. So, at one point when we were on Wikipedia and we were going through like a list of Maastrichtian creatures that could possibly be in the show, I skipped over reading Austroraptor to him just so he wouldn't think about it, because I'm like, he's gonna lose his mind when he sees that it's in the show.
And that was a great decision on your part, because to be honest, I completely forgot it was even in the Maastrichtian until we watched Islands and saw the intro at the beginning of the episode, and they show a shot of the Austroraptor, because that was a total freak out moment for me. I was very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm happy you made it all the way to the show without
I am too.
without seeing it. Anyways, moving on to one of, if not just like, if I had to pick a favorite segment in the whole show, like I gotta go with the absolute Chad Beelzebufo.
This is easy top 3 for me. This is
so
amazing.
Is so incredible. This scene blindsided me. Like, I wasn't anticipating this genus to return, and certainly not in such prominence.
Dude,
when I saw the
so
trailer.
much.
When I saw the trailer and I saw the shot of the Rapidosaur like getting spooked by the Beelzebufo, I was like, oh, we're going to be getting a scene like focusing around Rapidosaurus on Madagascar. I
Yeah,
never
the
expected
Beelzebufo make a
Beelzebufo to be
cameo.
the focal point.
Yeah.
No, me neither. But I'm so happy it was.
Yeah.
Dude, it
And,
was dude, the shot of the Rapidosaurus herd, like when they first come in, and the Beelzebufo, like at first like backing up a little bit and then just walking away as they come in the
Doing
frame,
the
like,
90-degree
lives-
turn and then just shuffling.
yeah, that lives rent free in my mind. That is one of my favorite shots of the entire show.
Because it's so real, but it's so funny.
Yeah.
This scene is
Yeah.
so gifable. I love it.
This
Yeah.
scene is a great blend of feeling very, very realistic and frog-like, but also being hilarious, but
Yeah.
in a way that's not anthropomorphic, really. Yeah. And for all the insults we threw at the animation for the crocodilians, this animation team really knows how to do some frog.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah,
that
Oh,
frog
yeah.
looked
Beelzebufo is
really
amazing.
good.
Yeah.
Looks so good. It's easily like one of my favorite models in the. It's always been one of my favorite models in the whole show. I think the design is incredible, like the coloration and everything. And
Yeah,
then
I dig it.
all the close-up shots, even from the one shot we got of it in season 1 for the most part. I'm like, they went hard on this one for just having it in like literally
Yeah.
15 seconds of the show.
Yeah, it's a very detailed model. It looks really
Yeah.
good. And just
It's
all the
really
little
cool.
movements,
I
the
love
way
that
it
guy.
waddles, the way it hops, and the way it just turns
way it
its whole
falls off the log.
body. Well, the tumble, of course, is an
Yeah.
iconic moment for the H's. I
How it just
enjoyed this
doesn't-
scene
it just
so
doesn't
thoroughly.
react. I was like, yeah, no, a frog wouldn't react to that. It would just happen.
Yeah.
And it would just keep going.
Yeah.
Frogs don't do
have
a lot of
of
brain.
thought. No, they don't.
I love too how this this whole scene just sets up the dilemma for him so well, and then gives him his little problem he has to get over. And you feel like you've lived through a character arc. Like you root for him the whole time as he's dodging sauropods left
scene.
and right.
And I love how, too, it's just, it's just like, oh, sauropods are coming. I gotta run away. Oh, I'm over here. Oh, there's a puddle there. Oh, I'll walk to the puddle. And he just walks to the puddle. And that's the whole scene.
It is. The execution is just so good, though. I also love the ending of it, because it was such a nice little, like, send-off to show that, oh, a female replies to him, and the way he pivots 90 degrees and just looks in the direction.
Yes.
It's like, okay, he has hope.
The 90-degree
Yeah.
full body pivot. It's such a frog thing. I can't get over it. It's so good.
Yeah.
It is.
As well, I think
Also
my
the,
opinion on the effects even went up a little bit when I looked up how small Beelzebufo actually is, because it was a lot smaller than I remembered. And knowing that, I think it even looks more convincing.
Yeah.
It
wasn't huge. It was like about the size, I think, of an African bullfrog. Maybe a little bigger, but not much.
Yeah, like the size of a real
It wasn't.
chunky
It wasn't
one.
huge. Yeah.
Yep. It was wide, but it's not nearly as big as a lot of people picture it.
It was a big frog, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't significantly larger than a frog that's alive today.
Yeah.
Yes. Precisely. But yeah, this I already wanted, because I know, like, Gibson, you and I had a talk about what figures we would like to see from designs from this show, and Beelzebufo was always pretty high on our list, and after this scene, I'm like, no, this is a requirement for me, even if I need to commission someone at some point. Like, I need
would
a
love
figure of
just
this
a really teeny tiny one that I can just, like,
Yeah.
hide in on my shelf.
That would be great, actually.
Yeah, that'd be good.
BOTM.
Yeah, I don't even
1/18
really
scale
know what else-
Beelzebufo.
Too much else what to say about it. I don't have a lot of thoughts over this scene, other than just it's one of my favorites, because it's like...
Well, I mean, the
there's not a lot
Beelzebufo
to
doesn't have a lot of
explain.
thoughts either.
Yeah, true.
Well, I guess one thing I wanted to say, though, which I think is often overlooked by the sheer chadliness of this frogman, but I thought it was really cool seeing sauropods taking a mud bath.
Oh, yeah.
That's
That's
something
a
yeah.
nice
I've
behavior.
never seen before. And that is something that makes a lot of sense that they would have done. So it's neat.
I was happy just to see Repeatosaurus, because, like, this show just really, or this season, I should say, really fleshed out Madagascar. And we've seen, like, every iconic dinosaur and frog from it now, and Simosuchus.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
There's literally
Dolotherium?
just Rehanevis is the only one.
Yeah, that's
I can
about the
think
only
of
thing
doing
I can
so.
think of, too. There's probably...
That's-
and
that's-
we even got
we have
Matsuya.
named- Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure there's more Madagascar animals that
Yeah.
we just don't know about, but the point is we don't know about them, which means they clearly, how cool could they be?
We're gonna eat our words.
true.
There's some secret, like, I don't know.
Well, there is... Hold on, I'm going to look up Mahajungasuchus.
Oh, now that's a
was-
nice genus name.
What... Is it from the... Oh, we could have gotten it. It was from 70 to 66 million years ago. It was right at the end.
What is it?
Here, I'm gonna pop a picture in chat here. It was...
Oh, yeah, for
think it was
the
a cl-
audience.
Yes. All of you guys, I'm too lazy to edit it in. Go look it up on your own. Mahajungasuchus was closely related to Caprosuchus, if I'm not mistaken. So,
Oh, okay, it's just like a crocodile with long legs.
yes, but it had like a really weird, like, here's the skull. It had a
Yeah, he's got a-
Thanos chin.
Yeah, he's got a really big, the lower jaw is massive.
Yeah.
Dude looks
That
like
is
he got.
really weird.
Dude looks like he eated a bees.
Honestly, I would have rather seen this than the Shamosuchus, I think, because maybe if it looked a little more alien, they could have pulled it off more, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
As far as Madagascan things go, I'm happy we got Simosuchus instead. But yeah, this would have been cool.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, Simosuchus is a
Anyways,
Oh,
Next
next
scene.
up, we have the best
Next
scene of
scene.
the episode.
yes,
And one of my-
another banger.
and one of my new
Another
favorite scenes in the
banger.
show. I got
Oh my god!
it. So, first thing I just have to say about this scene, because every time this is the one I find myself rewatching like the most alongside the Beelzebufo scene, going back to season 2. And Pachycephalosaurus, I've always found them cool when I look at them, but they've never been like one of my absolute favorite dinosaurs. And I feel like they've always been kind of cast to the side a little bit, because when you think of their representation in media, it's like, a lot of people know what Pachycephalosaurus is, but the biggest thing I could think of it appeared in was The Lost World, where it headbutted a guy through the Jeep. And that was it.
I'm gonna be fully real with you. I forget that Pachycephalosaurs are even a thing, because they're so weird, and there's something that you'd think that you'd know more about, but like you said, I mean, you see them so infrequently.
And there's
like
not a lot of them.
So infrequently. I mean, that is true.
At least compared to like ceratopsians.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of variety with them visually either.
Maybe more than that, but...
Yeah.
But, anyways, this scene right here, the more I've thought about it, really set in stone, compared to season 1 especially, really set in stone for me that this show is not brilliant just because it's showing dinosaurs, as animals in very interesting, lesser-known scenarios. But they took the most stereotypical scenario for a Pachycephalosaur to be in just like a running display headbutting each other, and they executed it so darn well that I'm like, this is the coolest thing that I've ever seen, even though I knew that they did this for so long. And
Concept
I'm like,
basic, execution 100.
Exactly.
The scene.
Yeah, no, they did this scene really well. This was a really good scene.
And also, too, one little note I thought of, because I'm just scrubbing over the episode here. I love that they showed them eating insects in the beginning.
Yes, I like the omnivory.
That they were omnivory. And it was just kind of thrown in little breadcrumbs for people to pick up on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't over-highlighted, like, oh my god, the plant eater eat bug. But it was just very casually in there and was neat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and,
I thought it was really cool.
I was kind of expecting, I'm not gonna lie, them to lean into the ontogeny thing a bit if Pachycephalosaurus showed up. But I'm happy they didn't, because listening to like the Skeleton Crew and some other people talk about it, apparently there's might be some new papers coming out.
It's a bit of a mess right now, I think.
Shake things up. Yeah. So I'm happy they avoided it. Just to keep the...
Yeah.
But they did decide to go speculative with the length of the keratins on the horns on the back of the head, right? Because obviously there's on the actual bone is really small nubs, but they put them as much larger spikes on these animals, which is reasonable.
Yeah, I just thought the effects and the model and the design for the Pachycephalosaurus, I love it all, and just the way the actual fight was done, the animation and sound design were so on point as far as just conveying the force of the impact of them headbutting. And again, like we said, it's the most classic behavior that even a lot of more casual dinosaur fans know about from Pachycephalosaurus that they probably headbutted. But seeing it executed to the level of this scene was really satisfying. It was like watching bighorn sheep running in a nature documentary or something, and the music, everything was really on point. It was just a really satisfying scene to watch.
Yeah,
and,
it was a great scene.
I loved it.
Scene. Another banger.
Now the only complaint I have with this scene is not even with the scene itself, it's the fact that the only connection this has tied to swamps is that one line David Attenborough says at the beginning, which is like, in the basin of a dried up swamp. And I'm like, David, my guy, is it even a swamp anymore if it's dried up?
Is a swamp if it's dry? We got some philosophy.
I mean, even the Beelzebufo was maybe a little stretching it, because he was kind of more just in like a dried up watering hole mud puddle. But
he was more so in a mud wallow, but...
Come on, guys. Guys.
There was no water here.
One thing I'd be really curious to know is what exactly the process behind making the show and structuring the episodes go. Because when stuff like this happens, because this happened in season 1 with Freshwater as well, it really makes me think that they have a list of segments that they want to make. And they make the segments and then come up with the episodes they should be in later.
Yeah, I think
because
potentially
you
that
get some weird
could be the
stuff like
case.
this, and like with North America being like, I mean, that's kind of weird and random. Like it,
Just that
it
episode
feels- it
existing
really
is random.
Yeah, it really feels to me like they more so have this list of segments. Okay, we gotta divide them up somehow into episodes, and then they try their best to make it work. I don't think that they go like, oh, we'll do a freshwater episode. Oh, and we'll do all these scenes in the freshwater episode. No, I think they have like a list of segments already made. But maybe, who knows? Maybe they also
it
go
might
out
be a bit
to,
of a combination
to
of the two, I think.
Yeah.
Might
But
be.
there are definitely, like, I can almost guarantee that when they came out with this Pachycephalosaurus scene, they were not thinking swamps, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's not a huge issue for me, but it is kind of funny.
Yeah, it is.
And it is funny too because they use the Pachycephalosaurus to market. It's
Yeah,
like
it's
the
the
poster
thumbnail of
child
the
for this
episode.
episode.
Yeah,
and you just see
which is
the
hilarious.
arid-looking environment behind it, and it's like swamps. Come experience swamps, and I'm like, bro.
You had
Yeah.
Austroraptor, or even, like, I don't know, you could have done the frog, too, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
maybe
interesting.
they thought people would be more excited about seeing Pachycephalosaurus.
I mean, to be fair, that
It's
is
fair. I
something
was
people
pretty
were
hyped to
clamoring
see it.
for after last season, and rightfully so, because the fact that there were none last season was a bit surprising / disappointing, but I feel that they've gotten much more adequate representation in this season, which is very nice. Another big check mark as far as just representing the diversity of this time period.
Yes.
Yeah, and once again, I think they have like the perfect number, like we said about the Abelisaurs last time. I think they had the perfect number of Pachycephalosaurs to really represent most of them that were around at the time, because we've got
To represent the five
Pachycephalosaurus, which is like
Pachycephalosaurus.
yeah, we got
existed.
Pachycephalosaurus, which is the big one. We got Stegosaurus, Prenocephalae, no Stegosaurus. I'm
Yeah.
an idiot. Basically the same thing, the alien-looking headed ones
Yeah.
from Asia.
Yeah, the
and
really
stuff.
smooth ones.
Um,
Yeah.
And then if there are any other Pachycephalosaurs, I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
Yep,
It's
Well,
definitely a
Homolocephalae.
smaller group.
that's all I can think of.
But yeah, I think we got solid representation, and it's just cool to see. And I think I'm more excited for the BOTM Pachycephalosaurus after the rutting scene, honestly. I didn't really
Yes.
care about that figure very much. I was
Oh.
like, I might get that, but nah. But now I'm
Yeah,
like,
this has sold
I
me
kinda
way more
want
on
it.
Pachycephalosaurus.
I think I need to get it now.
I'm really happy that I've seen something where Pachycephalosaurs are in that's like cool, because so much
Yeah.
like we talked about before, I forget about them because they're either like they're either not present in something, or they're like a background animal, right? They never
Yeah.
have like a segment or a highlight. And so seeing them like being the main focus of a segment was very, very nice to see, because they're weird animals and like a popular animal too. Lots of people can recognize Pachycephalosaurus, even not I mean, they might not know what it's called, but like even not dinosaur fans can recognize it. So it's kind of surprising that we don't see it in as many things.
Yeah.
I really like
Totally.
too just the opening shot, or maybe not the opening shot of the scene, but the first shot where we see the Packies. That's an overhead sweeping drone shot, and you just see them running, kicking up this dust cloud going through the basin, and I thought that was a really cool first shot. Very naturey, very immersive, much good.
Totally. I guess one more note on this scene that I thought of is, I know I keep bringing them up, but their channel is so brilliant. The Skeleton Crew was talking about the fact that they were cheekless was very unlikely, but I don't know the basis for that, and I know there are people that argue for cheekless animals still, and then there's people like them that argue for cheeks. So,
and this is my opinion as a non-biomechanicist and someone who knows very little about the situation. So take my opinion with a grain of salt. But
okay, shoot.
From what I do know is there are, like iguanas and stuff, there are herbivorous reptiles alive today that don't have cheeks, right? And they make it work. I mean, I agree that, like, especially something like a hadrosaur, because hadrosaurs, we know based on their dental morphology, were probably processing their food in a pretty complex ways. They were chewing and stuff. I agree that they almost certainly had some kind of. When we say cheeks too, we're not talking about mammalian cheeks. I'm thinking more of like just a flap of skin, right? That just is covering up the sides of the mouth. But I don't necessarily think, and granted, I don't know that much about Pachycephalosaur teeth structure or how they like laid or whatever. I'm just saying, like, the concept of a reptile, of an herbivorous reptile that doesn't have cheeks, doesn't seem unreasonable to me, just because there's already herbivorous reptiles today that are like that. I think. I think it's fine. I think the decision, especially to make just like one group of dinosaurs in the show be cheekless, because they're the only herbivores that are, I think was a good move. I think making most of them have cheeks was good, but I don't think it's unreasonable. But again, like that's my opinion as someone who is not a biomechanicist, doesn't know like a ton of the information, blah blah blah. Like, I shouldn't be taken. Don't take my words as. Don't.
I think everyone should actually write angry hate mail to the Skeleton Crew citing your opinion. I think that would be the correct. You don't know about dynamite.
He told me that it was actually okay. Oh, you guys working on your PhDs.
A final note for this scene, too, before we move on to the final scene of the episode is I just love the sound design for the Pachycephalosaurus. This is something the show has done a few times where they give herbivores much gnarlier sounds than I expect. Like, there was some really nice, just rugged sound and screeching and stuff that was cool.
Yeah.
I liked that.
Yeah, I like it. They do a great job with sound design.
Like...
Yeah. They did a great job with sound design in general with all the animals in the show. One thing I've listened since the last episode to the Prehistoric Planet podcast now, and I remember they were talking about how that was one thing that they were really invested in with just the animal noises in general, was not doing mammalian noises, like making sure that they based everything off of birds and reptiles. Since these were not mammals. So I mean that's a pretty consistent thing that they did throughout the show.
That's sick. And yeah, looping back around just very briefly, and then we should get on to the last segment in the episode.
Yes.
But I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I think the big push for cheekless animals kind of originated from Pachycephalosaurus, because there was a study, and that's where the whole omnivory thing came from as well, I think was from the same study on what was formerly Dracorex specimen, which was being referred to as like a juvenile Pachycephalosaurus, and them saying like they might have been eating more meat in their youth and they might have been cheekless to have more of a varied diet or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
don't
maybe.
Quote me on that. It's been
I
a
know
while.
that there was the only cheekless paper I remember was one that came out a few years back talking about how ornithischians wouldn't have had cheeks, but like I know kind of the big I think kind of the thing that why people still debate it is it definitely was showing that they 100% did not have mammalian cheeks. So mammals, obviously, we have lots of muscles in our cheeks and stuff. We have very thick ones, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Thick.
Whereas theirs would have been, like I said, it would have been basically just a flap of skin between the corners of the mouth. That would have just been a food holding thing. But yeah, I know that
I remember Wydog kind of touched on that with I think the newer follow-up video they did on Iguanodon. They critique the old Toyway Walking with Dinosaurs one because it has these really thick cheeks that like kind of fold out to the side when it closes its mouth.
Yeah, that definitely would not.
Which is accurate to the show to some extent from what I remember.
I do remember the puppets, especially in Walking with Dinosaurs, having some excessive folding with their cheeks.
I think they just couldn't figure out how to make the cheeks like expand and contract, so they just had to fold out, which is kind of understandable given puppets. But
the Allenosaur did that too. I remember we had a meme about it for a while.
Look at those folds!
Heckin' fold!
Anyways,
last
segment.
Is it T-Rex time?
It's T-Rex time.
I don't know.
baby.
The sun's still up. I don't think it's T-Rex time
Oh.
yet.
Oh.
Hold on, boys.
We'll be
Where he
back
said
later.
It's T-Rex time, and he
Yeah.
T-Rexed all over the place.
Oh.
Sun sets in 6 hours. We'll wait till then.
All right, 6-hour chill time. Let's go.
Hello. It's been
Anyways.
6 hours now, and
Thank
We're coming
goodness
back to
that
you
was so
live.
fast.
yeah, I know, right?
Wonderful.
The magic of editing.
So, I was not expecting. I didn't get spoiled by the trailers that we were getting a T-Rex hunting scene.
I can't believe
And
they
I
had
thought-
that kind of restraint when making the trailers, but good on them.
Yeah, no kidding. And I guess before we get to the actual hunt, I want to comment on one of my personal favorite things in the whole show is just seeing shots of Hell Creek with like the three of the major animals just together.
Yes,
You've got Triceratops and Montosaurus with sweeping drone shots in like the swampy wooded terrain, and then you've got
Very
the two
good
T-Rexes
visuals for
watching
Hell
them.
Creek.
So good.
This is a very good Hell Creek spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved. I watched most of the Skeleton Crew's episode on this episode, and I don't watch them very much, so I don't know anyone's names. But one guy was talking about how Walking with Dinosaurs kind of gave him a very incorrect impression of Hell Creek, as it did for many of us, and how
I think you're talking. I think Scott said this.
Okay, and I loved how he pointed out that, like, you know, because the Hell Creek and Walking with Dinosaurs is so iconic and so unique as an environment, he's like, I just assumed that we must have known that that's how it was, because it was such a bold environment. I assume that must have been correct, but it's obviously not. And, you know, I spent probably my whole childhood thinking of Hell Creek as Chilean ashfield land.
Yeah,
and
no,
it's so
I did
nice
too.
to see a documentary just nail the, like, Florida wetlands
Actually do it
wooded
right, yeah.
area.
Yeah.
It was so good. Love it.
I think When Dinosaurs Roamed America did a decent-ish job, because they kind of
Yeah.
had like these floodplains
Yeah,
with
they
a
did a
lush
pretty good job at
forest.
depicting
Yeah.
Hell Creek.
Unfortunately, that came out after Walking with Dinosaurs, so it had no power over my childhood vision of
True.
it.
Well, and I think the reason why too is also like, to be fair, like with Walking with Dinosaurs and versus When Dinosaurs Roamed America and some of this other stuff, even Prehistoric Planet, I think to some degree, it's a way, even though it's a cool environment, it's a way less distinctive environment than the Chilean ashfields, right? So I
Yeah.
think kind of no matter what, that's the one that you're always going to remember.
It's hard
just
to
simply
forget.
because like it stands out, and so that will always be the one that you really think about. I mean, even after this, like, I mean, to be honest, I think when I think of the Hell Creek, that's still kind of what my brain immediately thinks of, even though I know it's not true, just because it's such a distinctive environment.
Yeah. My mind just goes to Saurian now, because I remember I've never even played Saurian, but I kept up with the development
I do
of
think
it,
of
and
Saurian quite a
I remember
bit,
the
yeah.
whole time. Yeah, the whole time
Yeah.
they were really marketing that we're doing all the more research than anyone ever has to make sure the environment looks like Hell Creek, and I remember being blown away by like, oh, this looks way different than what childhood David was picturing.
Yeah.
This is cool.
But yeah, they did a really good here, and having a T-Rex hunt at night was also really, really cool.
Yes.
Because as they said, I mean, it's probably pretty reasonable that T-Rexes hunted at night, at least occasionally. They had massive eyes. They could probably
Makes sense.
see pretty well at night, see pretty well in general.
Yep.
Yeah. Because when
I,
it comes to
yeah.
eyes, the reason why larger animals tend to have smaller eyes in proportion to their body is because it's not the proportion of the eye that matters. It's like the total size, right? You know, again, that's why like whales and elephants, like when you look at them, have proportionally small eyes, even though their eyes aren't like physically small. It's just they're on a big animal. But T-Rex's
Yeah.
eyes were big on a fairly large animal, and
Yeah.
so I mean that's a really huge eye that could almost certainly have a lot of rods and cones and all kinds of sensory stuff in it.
I do like all them rods and cones in my eyes.
Yeah.
I was so hyped for this scene because I've been thinking about the possibility of getting a T-Rex nighttime hunt in this show since last season, or since the trailer for season 1, because we got a shot, I think, maybe it wasn't in the trailer, maybe it was in some kind of promotional thing, or maybe the intro, I forget, of the Triceratops in the cave. And I remember it wasn't immediately obvious that they were in a cave. And so we all just thought it was a nighttime shot. With the night vision camera and all that, and I think maybe I wasn't even the only one, but I know I immediately jumped to like nighttime T-Rex hunt, like that'd be so sick.
Nighttime T-Rex hunt.
And of course, season 1 was very restrained with the way it used T-Rex, and I really liked that. You know, I thought it was really bold and nice and tasteful to have a whole season that had quite a bit of T-Rex, but didn't utilize it in the traditional ways. But finally getting that hunt, having it be at night with that great atmosphere and that moody lighting was so cool. Yeah, it was just very satisfying, very well executed scene. My final big note for this scene is just that I love seeing accurately large Edmontosaurus next to T-Rex, because I'm so used to seeing Edmontosaurus undersized, like a normal hadrosaur, when it was huge. And I'm so accustomed to seeing that in documentaries that I was actually thrown off by the first shot where you see them together in this episode, because the Edmontosaurus was basically the size of the T-Rex. I was like, oh my god, it's so big, and I was like, oh yeah, that's correct. And,
if anything, Edmontosaurus was bigger than T-Rex.
Yeah, it was massive. Well, so I love seeing that.
The one that lived with T-Rex. Yeah, it was a big hadrosaur.
So many hadrosaurs are equal to or bigger than like the apex predator in their environment, and nobody gives them credit for that.
People often underestimate. I mean, when you see hadrosaurs in museums, hadrosaurs are not small animals. A lot of them are really big. Yeah. I mean, obviously Edmontosaurus is one of the larger ones, but they're
even
typically
Parasaurolophus, which I usually think of as kind of a more medium-sized one. There's even weirdly big material for that. And then Lambeosaurus is massive, and Shantungosaurus is just trying to be a sauropod.
Yeah.
When I went to AMNH, one thing I took away a couple of years ago was how T-Rex, I've seen multiple full T-Rex skeletons, but it was a while since I saw one, and I saw T-Rex and I was like, oh yeah, you're pretty much the size that I pictured you in my head from what I remember. But then I saw Edmontosaurus in the other room, and I'm like, how were you this big for so long? And I didn't realize.
Yeah.
You are huge.
The Nectons is absolutely colossal, and it's one of my absolute favorite hadrosaurs, and I'm so glad I'm also glad it got a name drop since the one in Ice Worlds, because of the taxonomic ambiguity was just hadrosaur for that episode.
Yeah. I mean, the one in Forest's got a name drop.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that. Yeah. But I like the look of the Hell Creek one better, though. I like the change in coloration. Showing the diversity, too. That we get a lot of Edmontosaurus throughout both seasons, but none of them look quite the same, because they're all in different regions. That's neat.
Which is good to show the diversity and stuff, because a lot of them are different species. I mean, like the Arctic one, right? Regardless of whether it's Edmontosaurus or not, it's certainly a different species of Edmontosaurus.
Yeah.
From the other ones.
Yeah.
I really like this whole segment, them hunting at night. I know that they actually talked about this whole thing quite a bit on the podcast, the Prehistoric Planet podcast, about how they want to do a nighttime hunt scene, because it's only been fairly recently-ish appreciated just how much carnivores often hunt at night. And so they're just like, well, it happens so much nowadays. I mean, it almost certainly happened back then. So let's do a T-Rex nighttime hunt scene. And again, another way of showing, because I've mentioned this a long time ago, but I mean not on this podcast, but just with you guys, that Prehistoric Planet's kind of motto is dinosaurs the way, but you've never seen them before, right? And so they always like doing new stuff and fresh stuff. And I think doing a T-Rex hunt, but it was at night, was a really good way of keeping it fresh and making it something that we still hadn't seen before. And doing it very well. It was a very, very good scene.
I also love the fact that the build up to the hunt was really showed that accurate dinosaurs can be scary, because I am sure we're all in agreement that I think a theropod the size of a bus that's completely silent with those piercing eyes staring at me from a bush is way more frightening than something with big thud trash bag
Are
noises
you
on its
telling me
feet,
that the scariest
roaring and
predator
screaming.
isn't one that warns you it's approaching a mile away?
Yeah.
So you can prepare mentally and physically for an assault, yeah?
Dude, that needs to be like in like a horror movie. So it needs to be like a jump scare scene where like the characters are there, and then the T-Rex like basically sneaks up on them, right? Because it's trying to be quiet, and you just turn around and like a closer than you would want it to be distance away, just like in the bushes, there's this giant, several elephant-sized animal. Just in the bushes, just watching you, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah,
I think that would be
fantastic, and it really was. That was another thing that Skeleton Crew pointed out, is that it almost felt like a purposeful dig at Jurassic Park's giant thunder footsteps to point out explicitly the foot pads and the silent footfalls. Very nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
But anyways, that wraps up the episode.
That does.
It does wrap up the episode.
Swamps. It was a good one. It's not my favorite, but it's...
Yes.
Guys, it's been
I
a contender.
really-
We spent so long
I
on
really
this
liked
one.
it. Again, it was the fresh water of the season, in the sense of the segments didn't make a ton of sense all for the episode, but I just, like I said with Freshwater, I just don't care, because just especially with this one, like the three later segments were just such utter bangers for me. Like I love all three of them so much that I'm just like,
the
I
episode
just
really
don't
just
care.
keeps like cooking hotter and hotter too. Like the opening scene's okay, then the Austroraptor scene's pretty cool, and then as soon as you get to the frog, it's just up from there, or at least levels off at a very high level. Very, very solid episode. I think this episode is definitely not as good as Islands or Badlands as far as flow and connective tissue is concerned. This one is more back to the season 1 method of just here's a pile of scenes, but I think the scenes pound for pound are more consistently good, in my opinion.
Agreed. One thing I will say, especially after seeing this episode and thinking about it more, is I do really like what they're trying to do with theming each of the episodes across the show after different environments. I think that's really cool and very Planet Earth and stuff.
Yeah.
But after seeing North America, which we'll talk to eventually, I really like the diversity that North America had, and I almost wish that they committed to a continental theming thing where they could even do like North America Part 1, Part 2, South America Part 1, Part 2 kind of thing, and just, spread across them.
But what would they do for Australia? I don't know if there's any Mystrixie dinosaurs known from Australia. I guess they just could not do Australia, though.
They just skip Australia.
I guess.
I mean, it's a little bit of Antarctica. Yeah.
Yeah, Antarctica would be tough because we do have an Antarctic scene in the next episode here.
Yeah.
But I mean, this way does open up the opportunity.
Madagascar, but still, it's still. Ignoring
I was
that.
actually trying to think,
I agree
do
that
we have anything from Africa that's not Madagascar in this show?
No, I don't think so. I don't know if there is. Is there any late Maastrichtian African things that we know about? I don't know about.
I was going to say, I don't think so, because...
Yeah.
I know we have Jurassic stuff, but...
We've got Jurassic, and then we've got, like, Chinini Formation, that general area was Spinosaurus, Carcharodontosaurus, all of that.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was thinking... My bad. I keep thinking sub-Saharan Africa. When I think of Africa, I think of sub-Saharan Africa. I kind of forget Northern Africa is a part of Africa. So.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is a wasteland.
Yeah, so.
It is. Anyways, I want to just cook along here because we're already an hour into this one, and I feel like this one shouldn't be too long to get through anyway. But it's the shortest episode in the whole show. Oceans, which was neat, and the episode kicks off with a fairly recent discovery, if I'm not mistaken, of a small, presumably nocturnal mosasaur called Phosphorosaurus.
Yes.
Which I thought was really, really cool.
It does start with that segment. You're right. Sorry.
It does indeed.
I was remembering it wrong in my brain.
Yeah. I think this episode overall was a really interesting experience because I feel like there's a lot to talk about, especially with like the Xiphactinus scene and stuff, because one thing we've noticed in season 1 was the stuff that they struggled the most with was the aquatic stuff. It didn't look bad, but you could just tell that there was subtle things off about it because things
it didn't look like the animators knew what they were doing quite as much as with the terrestrial animals, just locomotion wise.
Especially when it came to interacting with surface water. One thing I will say just off the bat, they did a much better job with the CGI animals interacting with surface water in this season.
Yes,
I don't know what rendering or processing or I don't know what they did different, but whatever they did different, it looks way better. So good job.
Yeah, I don't think they could have pulled off the crown jewel shot of this episode last season with the way the water effects typically were.
No, there's no way.
But I would describe this episode as kind of a pleasant surprise for me because I had heard some people kind of dissing on it, and I guess I get why. Agreed. But I thought it was very nice. It's definitely not one of my favorites, but I would not say it's my least favorite.
I would personally say it's my least favorite. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's still a prehistoric planet.
Yeah, and I think it's a reasonable pick for least favorite, but I still really enjoyed it. That opening scene with the phosphorus source is honestly one of my favorite bits. Just in particular, the visuals of the lanternfish and just how fast they have the Phosphorosaurus moving through that shoal of fish is really cool. It felt very immersive to something you'd see in a real documentary where the cameras are struggling to even track its movement or really show it very well because it's just moving so quickly.
Very fast. Very fast little guy. Well, I say little. Cool. It's like a 10-foot long animal. But
well, for a Mosasaur, that is puny.
Mosasaur is very small.
But yeah. So I thought that was a nice little opening. Maybe one of the less grand openings as far... Well, I guess Swamp's opening is a pretty small-scale scene, too.
Cool. I liked how it did the tongue flick thing, like lizards.
Yes.
Because Mosasaurs are the only prehistoric Mesozoic large reptile that actually is a lizard.
Yes.
I thought that was pretty cool.
The Globodons does that as well in North America, I believe. Very nice to see.
Yeah. Very nice indeed. But yeah, just a really... I feel like this season in particular does a really nice job of just picking good scenes to ease you into the episodes.
Yeah.
But
besides Badlands, where there's no easing and it's just like Hell World.
Oh yeah, exactly. Well, I was gonna say it's unlike season 1's like Freshwater, where it's just Velociraptor cliff dive hunting,
or the Dreadnought. Season 1 definitely went harder into like
season 1. Yeah, season 1 had
openings.
The intros went hard in season 1. They picked bangers for season 1's intros.
Yes, stuff feels a lot more gradual in season 2.
Yeah. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, just different.
Yeah.
So then, next after that, I think is the Hesperornis and Xiphactinus.
Yeah.
Which, again, me going about the birds, I think the Hesperornis look pretty decent. Again, I don't think they're super amazing, and I think their swimming animation could perhaps use some work. I mean, obviously they swim in a very different way than most other animals do with their hind feet kicking thing. But I don't even know what they felt a little too smooth in how they swam.
I honestly,
in comparison to when you look at loons and other birds that use their hind feet to dive, like Hesperornis.
I think even as a non-bird guy, just coming at the Hesperornis from a general special effects standpoint, I didn't think they looked too great, to be honest. I mean, at least by prehistoric planet standards, which are pretty high standards, to be fair. I thought the Xiphactinus looked really good in terms of like CGI-wise, but I did think that it also looked a bit weird swimming motion-wise, and I'm not a fish expert. Our friend Aiden could probably tear apart the Xiphactinus piece by piece.
The Xiphactinus definitely felt off to me.
I remember one thing he was commenting about the Xiphactinus was the animation, and the fact that, I don't know how reasonable this is, but I'm just going off of him because he's the fish guy, and he knows more than I do about... I don't know anything about fish. But he was talking about how the Xiphactinus in how they hunt the Hesperornis in this show is very like they're kind of chasing them for a while, right? And they're kind of like right behind him. Where he was talking about how like in modern day, very fast moving fish like tarpon and stuff or tuna, they tend to go for a lot more. Be far away, but then just like zoom towards your prey like super super fast, and then like try to catch it, and it might dodge you, it might not, and if it dodges you, then you basically like go far away again, and then you zoom back in, right? As opposed to this kind of like it's constantly behind you kind of a thing that was happening here.
And I did think there was something a little cartoony or monster movie-esque about the way the Xiphactinus hunted. It definitely didn't feel as grounded as other stuff in the show. Not a bad scene. I genuinely still really enjoyed seeing Xiphactinus.
I really love the music in this scene. I really like the song that happens here. I don't know. That's
I'll
just
have
for
to listen
me
to it.
personally,
Okay.
but-
That reminds me, I absolutely love the song in the Phosphorosaurus scene. I listened to it on loop after we watched that episode because I was jamming to it so hard.
I think my favorite part about this scene, though, is I think the design for the Hesperornis is gorgeous. I know Gabriel Oguedo made that one.
Oh yeah,
the
it looks
design is
really
nice.
good.
The effects aren't my favorite, but the design is good.
I forget, like I
Because
think
like Hesperornis is one I've always been kind of meh on. Like it appears in so much stuff. It was in Chased by Dinosaurs. It was in
always
Primeval, even of
ugly
all
as
things.
sin.
It is always so ugly, but I'm like, oh, this one just looks like funky water bird.
Yeah.
And it's got really cool colors.
which is
Neat.
probably how it looked.
For
and
sure.
I forget, I forget if the lobed feet is something that's known or not. Like I think I've heard things that like implies it is, but I don't know how you would since that's soft tissue. But so you'll notice in the Hesperornis in the episode they don't have webbed feet, they have lobed feet, which basically just means that their toes are really wide. So if you look at modern day birds that use their feet to swim, there's basically two different methods that they do. Either one is they do webbed feet, so that's like the duck, the goose method. Pelicans are also like this. Cormorants are like this. Loons are like this. Or they can have lobed feet, which basically just means their toes are really wide, but they don't have webbing in between their toes. So grebes and coots both do that, and maybe some other groups that I'm just not thinking of. But so they both, if you look them up, they basically have like just really wide toes, and that's what they use to swim, and that's what the Hesperornis have in this scene. And I thought that was pretty cool. I think I've heard some stuff that might be based on something, but I haven't looked into it. But if it is based on like if Hesperornis did actually have lobed toes, that's pretty cool. Because not a ton. Like again, only grebes and coots are the only birds I can think of at least that have that.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
So then,
well, hey, before we scoot to the next scene, I have to pee really quickly.
I'm gonna do that as well, as long as you're doing it.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is the segment we like to call Eric's Alone Time. Hello. How are you? I'm doing fairly good, you know? Let's see, there's a tree out the window. That's pretty cool. There's actually more than one tree. There's several. One might even call it a forest. Let me think of some riveting fact that you might find decently interesting. Armadillos are loud, if you didn't know. Yeah, they're not subtle animals. They're very easy to notice. Like you'll just be outside and then you'll just hear them rummaging through the leaf litter, and it sounds like a much larger animal, and you're just like, what on earth is that? And then you go and it's an armadillo, and you're just like, oh, hello. And then they like won't see you for like a long time because they're like super blind. And yeah.
Wait, have you seen armadillos out there?
Oh, I've seen several armadillos.
That's so cool.
They're everywhere.
Well, up next we have potentially my favorite scene in the episode, which is baby Ammonite tidal wave.
Yes! This was great. This was great. Getting to see Ammonites highlighted a lot more was really good, because obviously Ammonites are such incredibly common fossils. Like they're almost in some ways the fossil, but they're like never in
That's
any
very
shows
true.
and stuff. So seeing Ammonites like actually like in Prehistoric Planet in several different scenes. I mean, they're in season 1, and then they get like
in the first
whole
episode of the
scenes
show in Coasts, they get a huge highlight, and then they get highlights in this season too.
Yeah, and then they get like 3 scenes in season 2. I think it's very, very nice to see.
I agree.
Especially because I kind of talked about this in the little review I wrote up for this episode, and I found an even funnier way to phrase it, which is that Ammonites are perpetually the red shirts of dinosaur documentaries, which in Star Trek, the red shirts are the people who always die, for anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah.
Like the random cannon fodder characters. And it's really nice that in this show, like, I mean, we do see some Ammonites dying, but we also literally see Ammonites growing up and, you know, flourishing, and we see so much diversity, and it feels very well earned for how cool they are as animals, that like they're finally not just ichthyosaur food.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not just there to be eaten.
Yeah.
It was very
kinda
cool.
like, you know what it reminds me of? It's kind of like every time I watch Planet Earth or a documentary like that, and they really spend a lot of time on the life cycles of insects or whatever, and I'm like, oh, these things that are just walking around everywhere that I constantly have to swat in my house because they're trying to suck my blood. I'm like, wow, they have really complex and interesting life cycles sometimes.
For sure.
Animals, especially when you get outside of vertebrates, animals can get weird.
They can.
But I thought the whole idea of them escaping tide pools, based on them like forming a giant mass and like moving over, rocks and stuff, was I thought that was very interesting, and like I wonder if it's based on something, because so much of the speculative behavior in Prehistoric Planet is based on real world things. So like, the Barbadactyl scene in season 1, the Troodontids starting the fire, some other ones that I'm just not thinking of. Like so much of like the really crazy speculation is based on like actual things that actual animals do today. So I really wonder if this is something that some animal does, some tide pool animal.
Yeah.
But I just don't know what it is. Maybe I should actually like look that up, because, or maybe they just came up with it on their own. I mean, if they did, that's a really cool speculative idea. And I don't think it's unreasonable.
Yeah, I think it's really neat. I'm really curious what their basis is.
I've seen something similar before. Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know if I have for sure or not, but it feels familiar to me in a weird way. So, I
3 men talk about how they haven't researched this and how it seems vaguely familiar and cool. This is a great show.
But it was cool and neat.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously, I'm in the same boat. Like, I think it was really neat. I don't know how likely it is, but it certainly seems possible. And it's this scene just ranks up there for me as far as scenes in Prehistoric Planet that I never expected to watch, that I never thought anyone would make. Like the concept to have a whole segment focused on baby ammonites of all things doing the weirdest thing. Like I really, really enjoyed that, just for the how unique it was. And I love the effects and the design for the little baby ammonites. They look so cute and so convincing, honestly. I think they probably use practical shells in a few shots because they look very good.
Yeah.
I know they use some practical shells in season 1 when they all wash up on the shore.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But as if the scene was great enough, it's actually bookended with a little dinosaur cameo. That's another flex on Jurassic World, and you can't convince me otherwise. But there is a baby Pyroraptor that shows up.
That's just the Velociraptor model, and it's on screen for 2 shots, and the name drop is so unnecessary, and it just can't not be a JW dig.
It's gotta be. But like, if they were gonna have Pyroraptor in the show, that was the way to do it, because if anyone here doesn't know, Pyroraptor is like super fragmentary, and no one's actually too sure what kind of Dromaeosaur it is. There is actually some debate as to whether it's a unilagine or not, so like it would have looked like Austroraptor, but it might not have. It might have been something else. So like the pick them as babies, where like, because babies can change a lot as they age.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, no, that was the way.
It's a good way out.
Yeah, it was a good way.
Because I
out.
thought about them showing Pyroraptor, but I know a lot of people were saying that. They were like, oh, they're probably not going to show it because we really don't know what it looks like. But after it showed up, I'm like, all right, they found the perfect way to still include it.
Yeah.
By showing it as a child. But yeah, really, really great scene.
Really
One of my
nice, though, that they
favorites
took
from
into account
season
the
two.
expert science of Jurassic World Dominion to depict Pyroraptor as living near water.
Oh yeah, 'cause
That's
it definitely
true.
did that. Yeah. If it was a Unalagian,
Thank
it did.
goodness.
So,
Oh my
So
god.
it's relative.
If it is a Unalagian and Dominion accidentally got that one thing right of just it being like more of a water-centric animal, I mean, obviously it wouldn't have webbed feet still, but if it's even remotely, oh, please no.
You never don't. You never know, Gibson. Just wait.
I
There'll
mean,
be a study
ugh.
coming out about how Pyroraptor was the most semi-aquatic of all dromaeosaurs.
And it had a skull structure like a crackhead.
Yeah.
That Dominion one is... Okay, we're not here to talk about the Dominion Pyroraptor.
We're not.
Mosasaur hunt.
Mosasaur Hunt.
This was cool.
The poster child for season 2.
Yes.
Especially after the behind-the-scenes segment.
Oh, yeah.
I've really, really grown to enjoy this.
I
The
love
amount
that
of work they put
commissioned
into,
a special study for this scene.
Yes.
Yes.
I thought that was really cool. No other documentary I'm aware of has ever done that before. At least
Yeah, no, they've commissioned.
paleontology.
They've commissioned. They were talking about this in the podcast. They've commissioned several studies, for Prehistoric Planet. One of which I can talk about in our last episode that we do, because it's kind of overarching for the whole
Ooh.
thing. But yeah, I thought it was very, very cool that they did that. Because like I remember even thinking back when we originally saw the trailer and stuff, like Mosasaurus is a pretty big animal, and yeah, whales can jump out of the water, but like humpbacks don't really commonly like fully even clear the water, right? And I was kind of like, really? Like, a Mosasaur is going to, like, fully clear the water to such a degree, like this giant 50 to 60-foot animal? But after them talking about it, I'm like, oh, no, I mean, this seems... After the study, I'm like, yeah, okay, this seems
That is
this
one
seems pretty reasonable.
fast, aquadynamic boy right there, as
Yeah,
it turns
yeah.
out. Yeah, that...
And
Like
that
a lot
shot
of
of
lizards, they
clearing
were
the
built,
water.
They were built
Oh, yeah.
for bursts of speed.
Yep.
The
And that
shot
shot
of
of
it
it
clearing
clearing
the
the water
water
is
is
just
amazing.
peak.
Yeah.
The water effects and everything on it.
That was so satisfying.
So good.
The scene overall is not like, you know, my favorite hunt scene in the show or anything, but it's a solid scene, but being capped off with that shot really, really sells it. I also really love the shot, I think before its first failed attack on the Tyrannosaurus, where it's poised to launch, curving its body on the seafloor. That is
Yes.
really cool.
Learning about the C-shaped positioning in the behind-the-scenes segment, I also thought was very interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, me neither.
My only complaint
One
about
thing I will
this...
say.
It was really, really
sorry.
cool.
Well, I was actually leaning into that. My personal only complaint about this scene is they reused a shot
Yep.
from season 1 from a
Oh,
Mosasaur
yep.
that
Weirdest,
looks like it has a
different coloration.
I think it has different colors.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's red. The Mosasaur in this scene is not. Weirdest editing decision I've ever seen in this show. Who
Yeah.
put that in there? I mean,
it was-
that was just so strange.
It gave me Prehistoric Park vibes, right? Where like it's the same piece of animation, but we'll mirror it so no one will notice.
Yep. They did do that a lot.
Even though I'm just like,
it was so
we all
jarring.
noticed.
Yeah.
And not only was it a reused shot from the first episode, but it was way more obvious because that same shot was used in the intro for season 1 across all of the episodes. So it was
Yeah.
It's an
ingrained in my
iconic
mind
shot.
as like the Mosasaur shot.
And it's
yeah.
it's coming through a school of fish, and then there's
Needs to
no
stand
other
up more.
fish in this scene. Like, not
Yep.
near the Mosasaur. Anyhow, I mean, the Tyrannosaurs are feeding on fish, but like the Mosasaur
Yeah.
is off on the side.
And obviously,
and
who
just
knows
the
what was
discrepancy in
happening with that.
coloration. Yeah.
Maybe like they were going through and making it, and then eventually they realized like, oh, we need an establishing shot with the Mosasaur. Oh wait, we're so late in production, we can't throw it together real quick. Oh, we have to use, like, who knows what's going on, right? Maybe they
It
have
was
a good
strange, though,
excuse.
'cause
Maybe they don't. It's hard
You
to say.
don't need to substitute that shot. You could literally just take it out and have the establishing shot be the head peeking out after seeing its shadow go over. Like, you really just don't need it, in my opinion. Especially because a lot of animals
because I've only actually seen all these episodes one time, like when it came out weeks ago.
You might not be familiar with
I don't remember
shots,
it like super very well. So I'll take your word for it.
As someone who's rewatched it, especially, like, in my opinion, as someone who edits together a lot of stuff, you could just get rid of it. Especially because a lot of animals in this show don't get grand full body, like, introduction shots anyway. I think you could have just started with its head peeking out and would have been fine. But yeah, very interesting. Weird editing decision. Obviously, it doesn't like ruin the scene or ruin the episode or anything, but like, it does personally offend me as an editing decision. It's very weird.
I almost
it doesn't ruin it, but it's certainly detrimental to the experience for me.
I
think
can almost
it was
see,
minor
like,
but distracting.
As someone who hasn't, like, someone editing this together who, like, hadn't seen some Prehistoric Park or some of the other stuff, and was like, oh, we'll do this and no one will notice. And then when everyone noticed, they're like, oh, okay, never mind. Everyone noticed.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully they won't do it again, because I do think I've seen a lot of other people mentioning the reuse shot.
I've heard a lot of people mention it, yeah.
Yeah. Again, not the biggest problem ever, just distracting, is my conclusion on that.
Really cool scene regardless.
Very cool scene. Very awesome to see a Mosasaur hunt. Very, very cool.
Is it just me, or also, I need to think of that more. I feel like there's a lot more hunting scenes in season 2, just in general.
It feels like
there are.
Yeah.
They went a lot more, I don't want to say fan servicey, but like a lot more like depicting a lot of these animals in ways that they're more traditionally seen than in season 1, right?
There's
Which I don't think
definitely
was a
more
bad
hunting
decision.
and fighting.
There's a lot more hunting and fighting, but like they're able to keep a fresh spin on it every time, which
Absolutely.
I appreciate. I mean, they do them really, really well. So I'm not complaining. I like it.
Yeah. I think that works. And I think after season 1 being so tasteful and restrained, like T-Rex is the perfect example. I love what they did with T-Rex in season 1, but I'm also really happy that in season 2 we get to see it do some more action-y things, but not too much. Still in a realistic way.
Thing. Yeah.
You know, in season 1, I was really happy that they were restrained, not showing the stereotype of T-Rex fighting a Triceratops, but after season 2, with all the stuff they gave us, I'm a little sad we didn't get to see a T-Rex interact with the Triceratops.
But I gotta be honest, and we'll get to this more next podcast, T-Rex versus Kets is just cooler to me now, because I never even thought of it happening before.
It was very cool. Yeah.
But we're not talking about that episode.
Yes.
What else happened this episode? It's
more Ammonites next.
Oh, the more Ammonites. Oh yeah.
This is my favorite part of the episode.
This is very cool. Even though it was just Ammonite showcase.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't do much, but I loved it.
Yeah.
I think this had the most gorgeous money shots out of all of the aquatic stuff in the show, besides the Mosasaur, like, cleaning the water. Cleaning the water? Clearing the water.
That's some clean water, boy.
Mosasaurs had built-in water filtration systems.
Get a Mosasaur to keep your aquarium spotless.
Exactly.
Introducing Roomba-sukas.
Roomba-sukas.
Hey, Roombasaurus. It's a lizard, David, not a crocodile. Come on.
You're right.
I'm so sorry. You're right.
Roombasaurus, and it's just like a little Mosasaur with a round vacuum on its face.
That's good. That's going to be the code word for this episode. If you made it this far, comment Roombasaurus down below.
Do it now. Roombasaurus.
But yeah, the Ammonite scene, I love how chill all of the Ammonite stuff feels in this show. Like, it doesn't feel like there's a lot happening, but you're just kind of sitting and vibing with them for the most part.
Yeah.
And especially this scene, I just love that they arrive at their location, and it's just camera panning to all of the weirdo shelled dudes of the Cretaceous oceans. And they packed a lot of them in there. I mean, we had baculites, which was like I think could get up to like 6 or 7 feet long, like
Yeah.
the weird curved cone dudes.
Yeah.
We had my favorite cameo, which had me so hyped, which is Paperclip Diplomosaurus.
Yes,
Oh,
paper
that
was
was
so
so
cool to see.
glorious.
It was so great.
It's such an amazing creature.
It is. And then what was the one, you remember the name of them, Gibson?
Oh,
but the
Nostosaurus
ones-
is the one that we were following since babyhood.
Yes.
And we
growing
see
into
our
itself.
yeah, we see our juveniles first, and they already look pretty weird. But then we get to see the adults, whose shells are almost blocking their mouths. And I had to look this up, and
Yeah.
that is just what they look like. That is
I
just the
really
animal.
want to know why. Like it's got to be like some filter feeding adaptation or something, right? Like I mean, it's got to be something because it's such a
They were
weird,
filter feeding species.
Also protecting their
weird
soft
shape.
parts too, I guess. So
Potentially,
Maybe,
yeah, I
but
don't
I'm
know.
just like,
Very strange.
I think it's got to be a filter feeding thing specifically, and like it does the shape of the shell does something to help like water flow and food and something because like I can't think of any other reason why they look like that. Like that's so weird.
I think like there's a lot of weird ammonites I was aware of, but I think they take the cake as one I've never seen before as the weirdest ammonite. Like even overtaking the paperclip one. Like I'm like, it's so weird.
Yeah.
It looks just like a paperclip, but I'm like, this one really took the wind out of
Just
my
the fact
sails
that
when I
they're
saw it. I'm
growing
like, what is
into
that?
themselves. Yeah, that's so weird.
But yeah,
It's so strange.
I absolutely
because that's one
adored
where,
this
like,
scene.
That one's so weird that you're just like I just said with something I was talking about. Like you just start to question like why, like how did you even work as an animal, right? And that one's so weird.
Really
yeah,
weird.
I love
I
this
do
scene
like-
so much, and just this scene felt so vibrant. Like seeing just this nice nursery of all the ammonites together, and the music was really neat and unique, and this was such a great showcase for
music was
again
very good in this
animals that
scene,
are
too.
normally ammonite or ichthyosaur food.
Yeah.
So I just this
This
was
scene,
fantastic.
This scene also drove home their attention to detail with the cephalopods in the show, because I love how most of the time, especially like across paleo everything with ammonites, everyone's focused on the shell, but I love that they gave subtle variation and even greater variation to the actual soft bodied
true.
on them with the
Yeah, because
tentacles.
it would have
like
varied too.
Yeah, like the Nostosaurus has like the vampire squid membrane connections between
The really short
the
little tentacles.
Yeah.
and the short tentacles, which I thought was cool. And I'm sure there were others as well. That was mainly the standout one to me, but I thought that was really neat that they were doing.
Yeah, I
little
can't
things
say
like
I've
that.
seen many ammonites that go for the really like short webbed tentacles. That was cool.
Yeah.
Sure.
I enjoyed it.
But yeah, really good scene. And we have one more, which goes to
There's
Antarctica,
another scene.
and
Okay.
I forget the name of this thing. Do
Oh,
you
it's
guys
these
remember the
guys.
name of this?
Oh no!
Wait, was it
Yeah.
Antarctica or was it the Arctic?
I think it
I
was
thought
the
it was the
Arctic
Arctic.
actually.
It was the Arctic.
Oh,
Hold on. I'm looking up Arctic plesiosaur from Prehistoric Planet. Help me, internet. Oh, Mortunera. That's it.
Mortinaria, yeah. However you say
Okay,
it.
where's it from?
I need to look up Mortunaria. From Antarctica. I was right!
Oh, it is
Ha!
Antarctic. Okay.
I'm so good!
Okay, good job, David. Good job.
I really remembered it as Arctic as well, but
Yeah.
we were wrong and sad and pathetic, and
Yeah,
we should
guess
go
so.
hang our
Guess
heads
so.
in shame.
Yeah.
I think there's one shot that's really chill with this one where I think it's the female Mortunaria and her calf surface for air with the like the sunset, I think, happening in the distance. And I think the water effects look positively real just
They're
around
very
their
good
heads
this
in that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They looked so good in this scene.
I really love the visuals in this scene in general. The lighting at like the time of day and the just the environment and the effects. Like this is a very simple little scene, but I really enjoyed how pretty it looked.
Yeah.
For sure. I
Yeah,
like that they
it's
actually
very,
included...
very- Very nice.
I like how they actually include... Because I know they had like the scene with Pachycephalosaurus in season 1, which technically was supposed to be in a more so Arctic environment, but I like that they actually leaned into showing more of like the ice and and snow in this one because it was really, even though I was aware there were marine reptiles that did this, actually seeing it executed to a realistic degree in the show was it was kind of jarring because you think of these things in more so tropical environments, but I was like, nah, this is pretty cool.
Yeah,
seeing them like surfacing amongst the ice
Yep.
and stuff.
Yeah, I really enjoyed
fossils
that.
show they had like blubbery fat stuff, so.
And these were some very chubby-looking plesiosaurs. They looked really, like they really fit in the environment in a natural way.
Yeah. I really
dug
liked
it.
how they did the digging in the sediment thing, like we have fossils for.
Yes.
Like they show in Dinosaur Planet or Planet Dinosaur. I can never remember what it's called, but
One of those.
It's that one. They have them do that in that show, and I like that they did it in this show. And yep, that's my thoughts.
It's not the most thought-provoking scene, but it's a solid
it's
little
a very
send-off.
nice segment. It's a very nice segment. Yeah.
And
I
more
do
so
like
just brought attention to, I think, Morchinaria is a cool animal that I'd never heard of before, just for where it lived and how it fed. The filtration was really cool. I don't think there's anything more exciting they could have done with it. They're in a very desolate environment, and their feeding method is cool, but there's nothing really exciting you can do with that other than explaining it. So
I don't know. They could have had them hunt penguins.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
there you go.
On
That's
land,
leopard too.
preferably.
Yeah.
Get some walking with cryptocolitis action up in here. Haul
there
yourself
was
up on the
there was
land,
lots
buddy.
There was lots of penguins in Antarctica in the Cretaceous period. They had 110% evolved.
I believe you.
That's definitely very true.
Yeah.
Actually,
But anyway.
I was sorry. This is random. Not random. It's related to penguins and prehistoric planet. I was watching the Xiphactinus scene again on YouTube, and someone talking about the Hesperornis said, "I didn't know there were penguins with the dinosaurs," in the comments, and I thought that was great.
No,
And
my
actually,
guy,
fun
this one
fact-
has teeth.
It does have teeth. And one thing I forgot to mention about Hesperornis is, fun fact, unlike most depictions of them in previous media showing them standing and walking around like penguins, these things couldn't walk. Their legs were
they
like
would've
locked
been-
at the back of their body.
Yep.
They would have been like
They would have been
sliding
scooting.
around everywhere awkwardly.
Just
they would have been
scooting.
scooting.
Kind of like loons. You know how
Yep.
you've never seen a loon on land? There's a reason for that. Now, Hesperornis might have been more terrestrial than loons, or it might not have been. I don't know. I'm not going to make that decision. But they definitely would have been sliding around on their belly. They were not able to. They were not able to walk or stand upright like a penguin can.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I think we about covered everything for these 2 episodes, my
Yeah,
dudes.
I think that's it. We're an hour and a half
We
in. It's
did.
probably time to wrap it up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up, and then, if you guys are down while we're here, we'll quickly do the final segment.
Yeah, I think I'm good with that. Yeah, it's
okay.
only 3.
Cool. Well,
Thanks for
brain fart.
watching.
Thanks for watching. David's brain is dying again, so I will.
See,
I
I
will
was
take
doing,
over this.
I was
David,
doing
we're
so good in the
so
middle.
good.
I can't do intros or
David.
outros today. It's killing me.
Honestly,
It's okay.
as a
It's
long
okay. Let
time
Daddy Eric
YouTube
take care of
video
it.
maker person, I definitely have days where intros and outros are just hard.
Let Eric take care of it. Let Eric take
But
care
yeah.
of it, David. So,
All right,
ladies and gentlemen,
take over.
this is the final minutes of this episode. I hope that you had a good time, and we hope to have you listen to our next episode, where we will also have riveting conversation about the last episode and season 2 in general. And make sure to subscribe to David, because he's cool, and watch more of his
Yay.
videos because he's cool. Cue outro music, I guess. Goodbye.
Use coupon code BIONIC to get 15% or more off car insurance.